The sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting long shadows over Earth's bustling cities. To most, it was just another ordinary evening, but for a select few, the day was anything but. In the heart of Earth's most secure military facility, an urgent briefing was taking place. General Alexia Voss, a seasoned leader in Earth's armed forces, paced before a large, illuminated holographic map of the galaxy. Her sharp eyes scanned the map, each red dot representing a threat, alien species, and factions that had underestimated humanity for far too long. Earth had always been a quiet observer in the galactic community. For decades, humanity had endured the insults and scorn of higher civilizations, dismissed as a primitive species with nothing to offer beyond their vast potential for conflict. But humanity had changed. Earth's technological advancements had skyrocketed over the last century. What was once a fragile, isolated planet was now a powerhouse capable of holding its own against the mightiest of galactic empires. "We cannot keep ignoring the patterns," General Voss said, her voice steady. "They're coming. They've been testing us for years. And now, it's time to send a message they can't ignore." Her words echoed through the command center, hanging in the air as officers shifted uncomfortably. Earth had endured countless invasions, covert strikes, and near annihilations at the hands of alien empires who saw them as mere insects, insignificant, yet dangerous. The last straw had been the destruction of an entire human colony on the edge of their system, a silent strike from a long-forgotten alien race. "Do we really want to start a war with the galaxy?" Captain Lucas Hale, a young officer with a reputation for diplomacy, interjected. His voice carried the weight of the question that had been on everyone's mind. It was not the first time Earth had considered taking action, but this time, the stakes were different. Voss paused. The weight of her decision had not been lost on her. She knew the consequences of declaring war on the galaxy. It would not just be Earth against one empire, one fleet, or one race. It would be humanity against every species that looked down on them. It would be humanity fighting not just for survival, but for recognition. "Every time we've been attacked, we've reacted. It's time we took the initiative," Voss replied. She turned toward the giant display, which flickered with images of the galactic factions. The Zalari Dominion, a brutal and efficient empire that had crushed dozens of civilizations. The Theric Combine, masters of mind control and telepathy. The Seraph Collective, a race of biomechanical beings that viewed humanity as an affront to the purity of their species. All of them believe we are nothing more than a nuisance. A stepping stone. But today, that ends. Earth is no longer a passive observer. We are a force to be reckoned with. As Voss spoke, a figure stepped forward. Commander Aidan Cross, a former astronaut turned military tactician, known for his cold calculations and unparalleled knowledge of space warfare. His presence was commanding, and his eyes gleamed with an unspoken understanding of the stakes. "We've been preparing for this moment for decades. Our fleets are ready. Our weapons are ready. And most importantly, our people are ready. This isn't just a military decision. This is a statement to the entire galaxy that we are no longer to be ignored." A murmur spread through the room. The tension was palpable. This wasn't just a declaration of war, it was a redefinition of humanity's place in the cosmos. Voss turned to Cross, her expression resolute. "Make the call." Cross nodded, stepping to a console. He activated a series of encrypted channels that connected to every major fleet command, every military station on Earth, and the interstellar defense network that had been built in secret. The message that followed was broadcasted across the galaxy, amplified by a dozen ships in orbit. "This is Earth, calling the galaxy. No longer will we cower in the shadows of your empires. No longer will we accept your invasions, your experiments, your disdain. Today, we declare war on the galaxy. We are no longer the prey. We are the hunters." The message resonated across space, reaching every corner of the galaxy where there were intelligent civilizations. Earth had spoken. And as the message echoed into the void, the galaxy listened. But the question remained, what would they do in response? In the hours that followed, Earth's military channels buzzed with activity. Across the planet, soldiers, engineers, and scientists began mobilizing. The Defense Council approved the immediate activation of humanity's newly developed weapons, energy-based weapons capable of destroying ships, and even entire cities, in the blink of an eye. The time for talks, for diplomacy, for appeasement, was over. General Voss stood before the holographic map once more, staring at the planets that marked the territories of the Zalari, the Rick, and the Seraph. These were not just adversaries, they were the symbol of everything humanity had suffered. Everything humanity would no longer tolerate. The galaxy will learn. The galaxy will fear. This is the day Earth declared war on the galaxy. And with that, the countdown began. The galaxy had no shortage of powerful empires. But none had ever faced humanity, at least, not like this. The words of Earth's declaration spread like wildfire, traversing light years in mere moments. Across the stars, from the advanced Zalari Dominion to the enigmatic Seraph Collective, the galaxy's leaders took notice. They had long viewed humanity with contempt, an inferior species on the verge of destruction, easily crushed under the weight of their technological might. Now, that perception was shattered. On the throne world of the Zalari, Emperor Zalthar, a towering figure of cold intellect and brutality, sat with his closest advisors. His primary strategist, the cunning and ruthless Valis, looked upon the broadcast with a calculated expression. "This is absurd," Valis sneered, his reptilian features contorting in disbelief. "A primitive species challenging the entire galaxy? They are nothing. We crush them easily." But Emperor Zalthar was not convinced. He had underestimated humans before, only to find them more resilient than anticipated. He leaned forward, his massive, alien hands resting on the armrests of his throne. "You speak too lightly, Valis. This is not the same as the countless species we have eradicated. The humans are unpredictable. They have something no other species does, tenacity. We cannot dismiss them so easily." He turned his gaze to the star maps, which now glowed ominously with red markers representing Earth's closest solar system. "Prepare our fleets. We will deal with them swiftly, but we will not underestimate them. We will show them the might of the Dominion." Far from the Zalari's empire, on the surface of the Seraph homeworld, the serene biomechanical beings convened within their sacred council chambers. They were an amalgamation of organic and synthetic life, their minds vast and telepathic. The leader of the council, known as High Arbiter Thalora, received the transmission of Earth's declaration with a calm detachment. To the Seraph, peace and purity were paramount, and the presence of a species so chaotic, so volatile, was a stain upon the cosmos. "It seems we have been called to battle, despite our attempts at harmony," Thalora's voice echoed in the minds of her fellow counselors. "Shall we respond?" One of the younger arbiters, less inclined to the old ways of diplomacy, responded first. "Let us crush them. Their war is nothing more than the desperate thrashing of a fragile species. They dare disturb the balance. It is time we show them their place." But Thalora, ever the strategist, closed her eyes, her thoughts reaching across the stars. "No. This is not the time for such reckless action. Humanity is not like the others. They have something more than just technology. We must observe them first before we strike." Her words, filled with an unusual hint of respect for this new player in the galaxy, resonated deeply with the council. The Seraph, unlike other races, operated with caution, waiting for the right moment to act. As the Zalari and Seraph debated, a third, more insidious force prepared to make its move, the Rick combine. A race known for their manipulation of minds, the Rick had long infiltrated other civilizations without firing a single shot. Their telepathic abilities allowed them to dominate and control with precision. The Combine's supreme leader, Kynar, gazed at the Earth's transmission in quiet contemplation. His massive, crystalline body shimmered as he extended his mind, reaching deep into the farthest recesses of the universe, seeking the thoughts of his council. "Earth has made an error," Kynar murmured. "They have awakened us from the shadows. We will not allow this insolence." Their minds will bend to our will, and they will understand that resistance is futile. The Therics Council, a collective of minds rather than physical beings, rippled with an energy that vibrated through space itself. Without a single word spoken, their minds were in agreement. The Combine would not allow humanity's defiance to stand. While the galaxy's empires began their preparations, back on Earth, General Voss watched the unfolding events with growing anticipation. Their declaration had not gone unnoticed. And as humanity's fleets readied themselves, she felt a surge of pride. This was their moment. But she also knew the stakes. These were not just alien empires, they were the might of the galaxy itself. And they were coming for Earth. Commander Cross stood beside her, his face unreadable. They'll come at us with everything they have. We've calculated every possible move they could make. But we can't rely on just the military. We need to unite the people. This war is not just for survival, it's for our future. Voss nodded. She turned to a display showing the Earth Defense Network's current status. The fleets were assembling in the outer rim of their solar system. But it wasn't just their military strength that mattered, it was the unity of humankind. Prepare the civilians. Prepare the world. This is humanity's fight. This is our time to show them who we are. Across the planet, the people of Earth began to feel the weight of the moment. In every city, in every nation, the cry was the same: humanity was no longer the prey. It was the hunter. And as the first Zalari warships slipped into Earth's orbit, ready to bring their wrath upon the upstart species, General Voss's voice echoed across the world. This is the beginning. Stand firm. We are Earth. And we are no longer afraid. The darkness of space was vast, stretching out in all directions, punctuated only by the distant light of stars and the faint glow of far-off worlds. But this night, the darkness was pierced by the arrival of the Zalari fleet, an armada of sleek, heavily armored warships that tore through space with cold, mechanical precision. They were the galaxy's apex predators, and they had come to show Earth the consequences of defying their rule. As they entered Earth's solar system, their commander, General Zalthar, relished the moment. His fleet was vast, hundreds of ships armed with advanced weaponry capable of obliterating entire fleets in seconds. He had no doubt that the humans would crumble before them. It was simply a matter of demonstrating their power. We give them one chance to surrender, Zalthar's voice rumbled through the communication channel. If they refuse, we burn their world to ash. But his confidence did not go unnoticed. On Earth, General Voss and Commander Cross were already making their own preparations. The first wave of Zalari ships had entered their system, but Earth's defenses were far from what the invaders expected. Get our fleet into position, Voss commanded. Her voice was calm, but beneath it was a steel resolve. Humanity was not going to let the galaxy decide its fate. Not anymore. In orbit around Earth, the human fleet, a coalition of Earth's most advanced ships, the culmination of decades of research, engineering, and clandestine operations, was ready. Each ship was outfitted with energy cannons capable of decimating even the toughest hulls, and their shield systems were among the most advanced in the galaxy. But it wasn't just the technology that gave humanity its edge, it was the people. The humans fighting for their homes, their future, and the survival of their species. Commander Cross looked to the horizon, his expression tense. General, the Zalari are about to initiate their attack. We have no choice but to engage first. If we wait, they'll take us by surprise. Voss nodded, her eyes scanning the galaxy map in front of her. A million calculations raced through her mind as she weighed the risk. She knew the first strike would define the conflict. It would set the tone for everything that came after. If Earth hesitated now, it might be too late. Launch the attack, Voss ordered. Without another word, the human fleet surged forward, their ships disappearing into the darkness, making a beeline toward the approaching Zalari warships. The battle began. The first salvo of energy blasts fired from Earth's fleet, illuminating the blackness of space with brilliant, blinding bursts of light. The Zalari fleet retaliated almost instantly, their ships unleashing volleys of devastating plasma fire. The two sides collided in a cacophony of explosions, each blast shaking the very fabric of space itself. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Zalari were ruthless, their ships designed for maximum destruction. But the humans fought with a desperation, a raw fury that had never been seen before in the galaxy. They had no choice. Earth's survival depended on this battle. In the heart of the human fleet, General Voss watched the skirmish unfold, her mind calculating every move. "Concentrate fire on their flagship," she commanded, her voice unwavering. One of Earth's advanced warships, the USS Vindication, locked onto the Zalari flagship, a massive, oblong vessel bristling with weaponry. Its shields flickered, struggling to hold under the intensity of the bombardment. But just when it seemed like victory was in their grasp, the Zalari retaliated with a vicious counterstrike. The Vindication was hit directly, sending shockwaves through its hull. The crew fought to stay alive, even as the ship's power systems began to fail. Commander Layla Cruz, captain of the Vindication, gripped her seat tightly, refusing to let the panic set in. "Evasive maneuvers," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. The ship lurched as it spun out of the way of another incoming salvo. Despite the damage, Cruz's crew worked with a sense of unity and purpose. It was the essence of humanity. When pushed to the edge, they refused to back down. On the other side of the battlefield, Commander Cross was in the thick of it. His ship, Prometheus, was engaged in a furious dogfight with Zalari assault ships. The combat was chaotic, each moment a deadly dance of evasion and calculated strikes. Cross was a master of space tactics, his mind always 3 steps ahead of the enemy. But even he couldn't deny the overwhelming might of the Zalari. They fought with the precision of machines, their fleet movements coordinated with near-perfect efficiency. Yet, humanity fought with something else, something the Zalari couldn't replicate, a burning desire to survive. The battle raged for hours, neither side gaining a decisive advantage. But as the first Zalari ship fell, shattered by a well-placed shot from Earth's Archangel, a signal of defiance echoed across the galaxy. Earth was no longer an easy target. It was a force to be reckoned with. Back on the ground, the world watched with bated breath. Every human knew that this was just the beginning. The outcome of the battle would send ripples throughout the galaxy. As the last of the Zalari warships retreated from the battlefield, their loss was evident. They had underestimated humanity. The message had been sent. Earth wasn't just a nuisance anymore. It was a power that could no longer be ignored. General Voss stood in the command center, watching as the remnants of the Zalari fleet withdrew, their damage visible even from Earth's surface. She allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction, but only a brief one. The war had only just begun. The galaxy would come for Earth, and they would not stop until humanity was crushed, or until humanity stood as an equal. "We've sent them a message," Voss said, her voice steady. "But this is far from over. The galaxy will not forget what we've done. And neither will we." The stars seemed to burn a little brighter in the wake of humanity's first victory. Earth's defenses had proven stronger than anticipated, and the Zalari fleet, though shattered, had retreated, wounded but not broken. The news spread throughout the galaxy like wildfire. Humanity had struck back. The message was clear: the Earth was not going down without a fight. But as General Voss stood before the command center's massive display, watching the retreat of the Zalari, she knew it was only a temporary reprieve. The real battle was just beginning. This was not going to be a conflict won in a single engagement. The galaxy's might was coming, and Earth had just made itself the prime target. Commander Cross, his face still marked by the intensity of the recent battle, approached her side. His eyes reflected the harsh light of the tactical screens as they both turned their gaze to the blinking red alerts that now filled the room. "It won't be long before the full weight of the galaxy is upon us," Cross said, his voice grim. "The Zalari won't stand idly by. And they won't be the only ones." Voss nodded. Her mind raced through every possibility, every scenario that might unfold in the coming days. The message they had sent to the galaxy had been powerful, but now, Earth needed to be ready. The stakes were higher than ever, and the defense of their home planet was no longer just a military matter, it was a race against time. "We've made our stand," Voss said, her voice unwavering. "Now we prepare for what comes next. We'll need every fleet ready, every soldier at the front lines. If the galaxy wants war, then they'll get it. But they will not take Earth." The days that followed were a blur of intense activity. Earth's civilian and military sectors came together as never before. Families were moved into safe zones, cities were fortified, and research teams accelerated work on new weapons and defenses. Humanity's best minds worked tirelessly, pulling together the last reserves of innovation and creativity to stay ahead of the looming threat. But it wasn't just technology and firepower that Earth had going for it. It was the sheer will of its people. Every man, woman, and child on Earth had witnessed what had happened in the first battle, and they knew that the outcome of this war would shape the future of their species. No one was sitting on the sidelines. The Zalari had regrouped in the outer edges of their territory, and from there, they called upon the other galactic powers to make their move. The Rick Combine and the Seraph Collective, sensing an opportunity, prepared to respond to Earth's challenge with all the might they could muster. On the throne world of the Seraph, High Arbiter the Laura stood in quiet contemplation. The Seraph had long held a position of neutrality, a species that believed in the balance of the universe. But the audacity of Earth's declaration could not be ignored. "We must act," the Laura said, her voice resonating in the minds of her fellow arbiters. "The humans are a threat to the delicate order we have worked for centuries to maintain. Their aggression cannot stand. We will show them the consequences of disrupting that balance." But the Laura's words were met with hesitation from the more cautious members of the council. "Patience," one of them urged. "We do not know the full extent of what humanity is capable of. Their victory over the Zalari was no small feat, we must watch and wait." But the Laura, seeing the inevitable conflict approaching, made her decision. The Seraph would no longer remain passive. In the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the Rick Combine was also mobilizing. Supreme Leader Kynar had been quick to respond, his mind already plotting how to bend humanity to his will. The Combine's telepathic abilities gave them an edge, one that the humans had yet to experience. They dare defy the natural order, Kynar mused as his crystalline form shimmered in the darkness of his command center. They must be shown that no one defies the Combine and lives. We will break them, one mind at a time. And so, the galactic powers began to align, the lines drawn in the stars. The Zalari, the Seraph, and the Rick were coming, and they would not stop until humanity was reduced to ashes. As Earth's military continued to prepare for the coming storm, General Voss received a private transmission. It was from the United Earth Council, a body of leaders that represented the planet's many nations. They had been watching the developments closely, and now, they had a decision to make. "We stand with you," the Council's representative said, his voice filled with resolve. "This is not just a war of survival. It's a war for humanity's future. We have already begun evacuating key population centers and fortifying our global alliances. Together, we can face this." The weight of their support settled heavily on Voss's shoulders. She had always known that humanity's strength came from its unity, but now, more than ever, it would be tested. The war they faced would require not just military might, but unity on a scale the galaxy had never seen before. As the council member's image flickered out, Voss turned to Cross. "We've united our people. Now, we make sure the galaxy knows they've made a grave mistake." Cross nodded, his face hardening with determination. "It's time to show them what humanity is truly capable of." And with that, the countdown to the galaxy's greatest conflict began. Earth was no longer a passive player in the cosmos. They were a force of nature, ready to take on the galaxy itself. In space, the Zalari, the Seraph, and the Rick moved closer, their ships forming alliances that would shake the galaxy to its core. But as they prepared to strike, they could not know that humanity was already planning its next move. A move that would turn the tide of the war, and make the galaxy wish it had never underestimated Earth. The stars seemed colder now. Earth's first victory had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, but it also sent a clear message: humanity was not a species to be underestimated. And so, the galaxy's empires, Zalari, Seraph, and the Rick, began to forge their alliance. Together, they were preparing to crush the upstart species that dared challenge their rule. But humanity, battered yet unbroken, had something none of their enemies could anticipate: a secret weapon that had been in the works long before the war started. It was humanity's ace in the hole, something that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. General Voss, Commander Cross, and the brightest minds on Earth knew that this weapon was their only chance to stand toe-to-toe with the combined might of their enemies. In a hidden research facility deep within the Earth Defense Network's underground complex, a team of scientists, engineers, and military strategists worked in hushed, determined silence. They had been working on this for years, under the radar, away from the prying eyes of the galaxy. It was a gamble, something so new, so untested, that its very existence was a closely guarded secret. But now, with Earth's survival on the line, they were ready to deploy it. Dr. Evelyn Walker, the lead scientist overseeing the project, stood before the massive containment field, where the weapon was housed. It was a weapon of unimaginable power, one that would give Earth an edge against their technologically superior foes. "Are we ready?" General Voss's voice came through the communicator, steady and firm, though the urgency in her tone was palpable. The time had come. Dr. Walker turned to face the monitor, watching the final system checks. "Yes, General. The weapon is ready. We've dubbed it the Solarius engine. It taps into the very heart of our sun, converting solar energy into a weaponized form of energy that can be unleashed as a directed beam. Think of it as a miniature star, contained in a way that's never been done before." Voss felt a wave of cautious hope wash over her. "And the power? How do we know it will be enough?" Walker hesitated for a moment, her gaze lingering on the readings flashing across the screen. "If the Solarius engine works as designed, it can decimate even the most advanced warships in seconds. The energy output is beyond anything the galaxy has seen, but we have no guarantees." But Voss, ever the strategist, knew that this was humanity's only shot. The Zalari fleet was coming, and soon the Seraph and the Rick would join them. They needed a game-changer, something that could break the alliance before it had time to truly unite against them. "Make sure it's ready for deployment," Voss ordered. "When the battle begins, we'll strike fast, strike hard, and we won't give them a chance to retaliate." Elsewhere, across the solar system, Earth's defense fleet had been bolstered by new ships, new weapons, and new tactics. The preparations were complete, and the time for waiting had passed. Humanity was ready to face its enemies. And then, without warning, the first wave of enemy ships arrived. The Zalari fleet had regrouped, their ships now accompanied by the sleek, imposing vessels of the Seraph Collective and the mind-warping, crystalline ships of the Rick Combine. They were a massive force, one that could overwhelm anything Earth had left. They came in perfect formation, as though they were a single living entity, each ship supporting the others in a near-symbiotic dance. General Voss stood at the command center once more, her fingers poised over the controls. "All hands, prepare for battle. This is the moment we've been waiting for. We fight for our survival." The screen in front of her lit up with red as the enemy ships neared. The atmosphere in the command center grew thick with tension. Every soldier, every officer, every strategist knew that this was the turning point. If humanity could not repel this assault, then everything they had fought for would be lost. "Activate the Solarius engine," Voss ordered. Dr. Walker's voice crackled over the comms. "Solarius engine is live, General. The weapon is at full power." Voss didn't hesitate. "Launch." The Solarius engine fired a beam of pure, concentrated solar energy, its brilliance cutting through the darkness of space like a shard of light. The beam moved faster than the eye could comprehend, converging on the first line of Zalari ships. In an instant, the nearest ship exploded into a supernova-like burst of light. The sheer force of the blast sent shockwaves through space, shaking the very fabric of the stars. The Zalari flagship, the Wrath of the Dominion, took the brunt of the attack, its advanced shielding buckling under the pressure. It wasn't enough to destroy it completely, but the ship was crippled, its engines disabled and hull integrity compromised. The combined fleet of the Seraph and the Rick hesitated, shocked by the raw power of the weapon that humanity had unleashed. But there was no time to dwell. Earth's fleet moved swiftly, capitalizing on the opening, firing energy blasts that tore into the enemy lines. In space, the battle erupted in full force. The Zalari ships, furious at the attack, retaliated with everything they had. Plasma bolts and energy waves flew in all directions, colliding with human ships in flashes of light and fire. The Seraph fleet, though precise and cold, found itself caught off guard by the speed and ferocity of humanity's counterattack. The Rick, though capable of controlling minds, could not anticipate the relentless tactical genius of Earth's commanders. On the Prometheus, Commander Cross barked orders as his ship's weapon systems flared to life. "We need to keep them off balance. Hit them with everything we've got, don't let them recover." Despite the ferocity of the enemy's response, humanity's new weapon, combined with their adaptability and sheer determination, turned the tide. The Solarius engine was not a one-time use. With every successful strike, it grew stronger, feeding on the energy of the battle itself. Another blast of solar energy ripped through the enemy ranks, leaving them disoriented and vulnerable. The galaxy's once formidable alliance was crumbling. General Voss watched from Earth's command center, her heart pounding. "We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting to win." And in that moment, it became clear to everyone, Earth had no intention of being just another conquered world. They had come for the galaxy's throne, and now, they were taking it. The tides of war were shifting. The Solarius engine had not only shown them a weapon of unimaginable power, it had proven that humanity had the will and the cunning to fight and win against any enemy, no matter the odds. The battle was far from over, but Earth had shown the galaxy that it was no longer a passive player. It was a force to be reckoned with. The tremors of battle echoed throughout the galaxy, each conflict, each skirmish, each pulse of the Solarius engine driving home the message: humanity was not just fighting to survive, it was fighting to dominate. After the devastating use of the Solarius engine, the united fleet of the Zalari, Seraph, and the Rick had begun to fracture. Confidence in their collective superiority was eroding. The empire of the Seraph, so sure of their place in the universe, was wavering in their resolve. The Rick, shaken by the unpredictability of Earth's tactics, started to question the strength of their allies. But if humanity had taken a step forward in the war, the galaxy's response was swift and brutal. The Zalari, once humiliated in battle, regrouped and launched a massive counteroffensive, more vicious and aggressive than before. The Rick followed suit, and soon, Earth's position was more precarious than ever. The stars themselves seemed to grow darker as the conflict escalated. However, the real danger was yet to come. As Earth's defenses began to tighten, General Voss knew they were on borrowed time. The Solarius engine had tipped the scales in humanity's favor, but it was a fragile advantage. Every time the weapon fired, it took a toll on the planet's infrastructure, draining energy reserves that were already stretched thin from years of preparation. Soon, Earth would have to rely on something else entirely, their own resourcefulness. But there was another, more pressing concern: the war was about to come to Earth's doorstep. For months, the battles had been fought in the outer regions of the solar system, far from Earth's atmosphere. Now, with the combined galactic fleets converging on Earth, it was clear that the next phase of the war would be a battle for the very survival of the planet itself. Earth would not just be defending its ships and fleets, it would be defending its cities, its families, its very existence. "The enemy is moving faster than we expected," Commander Cross said, looking over the tactical map that flickered across the command center's walls. His brow furrowed as he pointed to a rapidly closing formation of ships. "We don't have much time before they're here." Voss didn't respond immediately. Instead, she stood in front of the window, staring at the pale blue glow of Earth visible through the glass. The weight of everything that was happening pressed heavily on her. It wasn't just the military, or even the technology at their disposal. It was the entire human race that was on the line. She turned to face Cross. "Tell the fleet to prepare for immediate deployment. We're fighting for every inch of this planet," she said, voice firm. Cross nodded and relayed the orders, but Voss's mind was already racing through the next steps. There would be no retreat. If Earth were to survive this war, the time for diplomacy and defense was over. Humanity would have to go on the offensive. On Earth's surface, the planet's military forces were going into overdrive. The cities had already been fortified, and the global communication networks were tightly controlled. The population was mobilized, too. Every available resource was now focused on strengthening Earth's ability to repel the inevitable attack. Earth had become a bastion of preparation and resolve, every man and woman ready to do their part, from engineers building new weapons to farmers working to sustain the war effort. The entire planet was working as one. Then, just as the enemy fleet drew closer, the first wave of assaults came crashing down. The Zalari, with their fleet reinforced by their allies, launched a brutal bombardment of Earth's orbit. Thousands of plasma missiles rained down upon the planet, targeting cities, military bases, and critical infrastructure. The sky above Earth was suddenly lit with the fire of war as the first explosions shook the ground beneath humanity's feet. As the missiles fell, Earth's defense systems sprang into action. Advanced energy shields, long in development and kept secret for the day of reckoning, flared to life, stopping most of the incoming blasts. But some got through. Entire sections of major cities were obliterated in the initial strikes. The world watched in terror as the shockwaves rippled out, but Earth's resolve only grew stronger. Humanity was not a species that buckled under pressure. It had never been. In space, the human fleet launched its counteroffensive. Even though Earth's defenses were formidable, it was clear that humanity was outnumbered and outgunned. Yet, the fight was not one of strength alone, it was one of ingenuity. Earth's ships darted in and out of the enemy formation, striking with precision, avoiding counterattacks with rapid evasions that bewildered the more predictable tactics of the Zalari. Earth's forces began to carve through the enemy lines, but each victory came at a steep cost. The Solarius engine fired once more, cutting through the Zalari's advancing lines, but as the massive energy blast exploded into space, it was clear that its power was waning. The weapon was draining the energy reserves faster than anticipated. General Voss watched in silence, knowing the Solarius engine could not be sustained for much longer. The fate of Earth now lay in the hands of the soldiers on the ground, the fleet commanders in space, and the people of the planet itself. In the midst of this chaos, a breakthrough came from an unexpected place. The Seraph, though they had been hesitant to commit fully to the war against Earth, found their position untenable. The longer the war dragged on, the more their position in the galaxy was being threatened. The Laura, the High Arbiter of the Seraph, saw that Earth was not just a challenge to the existing galactic order, but a potential ally against the growing threat of the Zalari and the Rick. Through back-channel negotiations and covert operations, the Seraph made contact with Earth. They offered a tentative alliance, one that would bring their vast resources and unmatched technology to bear against the combined forces of the Zalari and the Rick. General Voss stood in a dimly lit room, listening to Thalora's message. The offer was clear: join forces, and together, they could defeat the Zalari and the Rick. Earth would be recognized as a legitimate power in the galaxy, no longer a mere upstart species. It was an offer Earth could not refuse. But accepting it would change everything. They would have to trust an ancient race that had remained neutral for centuries. Could they do it? Could they form an alliance with the Seraph and truly take the fight to their enemies? The stakes were high, but the choice was clear. Humanity's future would be shaped by the decision they made now. As the enemy fleet closed in, General Voss knew one thing for certain: Earth was no longer just fighting for survival. It was fighting for its place in the stars. The stakes had never been higher. The combined forces of the Zalari, Seraph, and the Rick were closing in on Earth with terrifying speed. The planet, battered but resolute, stood at the precipice of its future. With the Seraph now aligning themselves with humanity, Earth had gained an invaluable ally, but the galaxy's might was still a vast and overwhelming force. It was a race against time, time for Earth to shore up its defenses, prepare for the final assault, and strike back before it was too late. General Voss stood before the holographic map of the battlefield. The Earth Defense Fleet had been joined by the Seraph, their sleek, advanced ships now moving alongside humanity's vessels, forming a united front. The fleet had been reinforced with technology that even Earth's greatest scientists could scarcely comprehend. The Seraph's mastery of energy manipulation and advanced weaponry had given humanity new tools to fight the galactic onslaught. But Voss knew that no amount of firepower would win this war alone. They needed to strike at the heart of their enemy's alliance and break their will to fight. "We've got one shot at this," Voss said, her voice steady but carrying the weight of leadership. "The Solarius engine is nearly out of power, and every day that passes, the enemy gets stronger. We can't wait any longer." Commander Cross stood at her side, his face grim. "The enemy's forces are massive, General. Even with the Seraph on our side, we're still outnumbered. It's going to be a long, bloody battle." Voss turned to him, her eyes fierce. "We'll fight with everything we have. But we'll also fight smart. We can't defeat them in a traditional engagement. We need to hit them where it hurts, right at the core of their alliance." Voss's plan was simple but dangerous. Earth's forces, with the help of the Seraph's stealth capabilities, would infiltrate the Zalari flagship, the Wrath of the Dominion, and cripple their command structure. At the same time, humanity's best and brightest would deploy a new form of energy weapon that had been developed by Earth's scientists, a weapon capable of neutralizing the combined fleet's superior shields. The goal was to break their unity and create chaos among the galactic powers, forcing them to retreat or, better yet, negotiate a surrender. The Seraph, recognizing the merit of the plan, offered their full support. Their ships would draw the attention of the Zalari and the Rick fleets, while Earth's stealthy ships would strike at the heart of the enemy's command. It was a risky gambit, but Earth had no other choice. The night before the final battle, as Earth's forces gathered in the silence of space, Voss found herself alone in her quarters, staring out at the stars. It had all led to this moment, the endless preparations, the countless sacrifices, the lives lost. The weight of command hung heavily on her, but she wasn't afraid. She had come to understand something fundamental about humanity. It wasn't just our technology, our strength, or our resilience that made us formidable, it was our spirit. The will to survive, to adapt, to fight for something greater than ourselves. A voice broke her reverie. "General," Cross said, stepping into the room. "It's time." Voss stood, her gaze hardening with resolve. "Let's end this." The battle began at dawn. The enemy fleet, taken off guard by the sudden surge of Seraph forces, hesitated. That hesitation was all Earth needed. Their stealth ships, equipped with cutting-edge technology, infiltrated the heart of the Zalari fleet. At the same time, Earth's new energy weapon, the Vanguard cannon, was deployed. It was a revolutionary piece of technology, capable of destabilizing enemy shields and rendering them vulnerable to direct attack. The Vanguard cannon fired, its beam cutting through the void like a bolt of lightning. One by one, Zalari ships lost their shields, becoming easy targets for Earth's fleet to pick off. In the midst of this chaos, a small, specially selected strike team, led by Commander Cross, boarded the Wrath of the Dominion. Their mission was simple: take control of the flagship's command center and neutralize the Zalari leadership. They knew the risks, they would be outnumbered and surrounded, but it was a necessary move. If they could take down the command structure, the entire fleet would falter. As Cross and his team infiltrated the Zalari ship, the scale of their mission became clear. The Wrath of the Dominion was massive, its corridors dark and foreboding, filled with the hum of alien machinery and the faint echoes of an enemy preparing for its final assault. But Cross had been in worse situations. He had fought for Earth's survival, and he was ready to fight for its future. "This is it," he said to his team as they approached the command center. "We take this ship, we take the war." The battle that followed was brutal. Zalari soldiers, fierce and relentless, clashed with Cross's team in a series of close-quarters skirmishes. Blood and plasma sizzled in the air as the team pushed forward, inch by inch. Every step was paid for with blood, but the determination in their hearts was unstoppable. They reached the command center, and Cross fought his way to the bridge, where the Zalari leaders awaited. Commander Cross, the leader of the Zalari, Zlar, sneered as he saw the humans storm the room. "You are foolish to think you can defeat us." "We don't need to defeat you," Cross replied, leveling his rifle at Zlar. "We just need to make you fall apart." With a single shot, Cross neutralized the leadership. The command structure of the Wrath of the Dominion fell into disarray, and as the ship systems malfunctioned, chaos spread through the fleet. The Zalari, now without leadership, faltered. Their forces lost cohesion, and Earth's fleet seized the opportunity, launching a final, overwhelming attack. Back on Earth, General Voss watched as the tide of the battle shifted. The enemy was retreating, their alliance shattered, their will broken. The Solarius engine, though drained, had done its part. The Vanguard cannon had cleared the way. And the courage of humanity's forces had sealed their victory. The war was over. As the remaining enemy ships fled into the dark expanse of space, General Voss allowed herself a moment of reflection. Earth had won, not because it had the most powerful weapons, or the greatest armies, but because it had something far more dangerous, the strength of its people, united by an unyielding spirit. Humanity had declared war on the galaxy, and had emerged victorious. The stars had not consumed them. Instead, they had become humanity's to claim. And so, as the Earth Defense Fleet returned home, a new era began, a new era in which humanity would take its rightful place among the stars, not as a fledgling species, but as a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy had learned an important lesson: never underestimate the will of humanity. For Earth was no longer just a planet, it was the heart of a new galactic power. And with that, the galaxy would never be the same again.